Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and today let's talk about some sound design. I'm going to try to make some pads. I've been listening to some Botanica recently, which is a new genre that I just found out about, and it's really cool. It has lots of interesting nature Foley sounds, but also some interesting pad sounds. So I thought I would try to show how I'm going to try to make them. I'm no expert, but hopefully this will be interesting. I picked up some of these techniques and I came up with something I thought was perhaps interesting. Of course, this can be used for other things like maybe ambient sounds or who knows, whatever you want. But this is what it sounds like. Okay, so let's make that sound. Let's start from the default here. So we're going to set the attack at 0 and the sustain up at 0 also. This is just for the global envelope. We're going to do some other things with other envelopes, so don't worry about that. I'm going to turn the gain down too, just because it can get a little bit loud. And let's get in here. The first thing I'm going to start with is just an oscillator. I'm going to create a supersaw. This might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but we're going to use some spectral processing to it afterwards. So let's turn the voices up. It just sounds like this. Nothing interesting, just normal supersaw you get in any place. Okay. So here in the effects section, let's go here and we're going to do some spectral stuff to it. Now, usually people use spectral gates and that's good, but we're going to use the transformer and that's because there's an easy way to do this. We're going to need the spectral settings. We're going to adjust that later, but for now, don't go to transformation, go to the level. Now, this controls how much of each sound level gets through. So, like this is just going to play, as you heard it, supersaw. But if we start adjusting this, we can reject certain frequencies or let through certain frequencies similar to a gate, but you actually have more control here. So let's see if I do this. Add a point here, and I'm just going to start moving this around. You can hear what happens. So you get those kind of sounds that you might hear in Botanica where it sounds like it's almost underwater and you're hearing those kind of glitches, which usually I don't like, but for this context, I think it sounds good. Now to bring those out more, we can do this, just bend this up like this. That's good if you like that. If you think, it's maybe too much, and move it down here. I'll put it back just like this. Now there's a bit of noise here and like kind of glitches. We can decrease or increase that. If you want more of it, move down here. So I'm going to set my buffer size lower. So at 512, it's going to be really noisy. So that's probably too much for me. I can move it up here and, sorry, if I have 8,000. Now we're just getting some kind of like movement and it's not so noisy. So I like to err on that side. So I usually stick between like maybe 1024 and this 8,192. Let's try 4,000. To me, that's sounding pretty good. And next thing, let's put on some reverb because, everybody needs some reverb in their life. M turbo reverb, just do large spaces. Try Randy Hall here. 40% seems good. Turn up the modulation a bit. Not too crazy, but just so you can hear it. Now let's hear what this sounds like. And last but not least, let's work that envelope. So we're going to set the volume to 0 here. Drag over envelope 1 here. I want it to go up to where it was, which was, I think, -12, around there, like that. We're going to set this. You can set this however you want. Let's see. I'm going to set this, let's see, half note here. We can do the same thing with Do one there. Move the sustain down. Let's hear the sounds. So to me, it's giving that kind of like an underwater vibe that I want. So if that's cool, we'll just pause that for a second and let's do the second one. The second one uses a completely different type of synthesis. We're going to use a granular synthesizer. So we use the granular sampler here. I'm going to pop this out so I can see it a little bit better. I'm just going to go to the default. I don't want anything on here. I might even turn the width down, but I'll show you that later. So what I like to do is find something organic. So we'll go to these organic tones. I want something kind of like a, almost like a bell sound or a xylophone sound, something really pure. So I'll start looking here, see if there's anything in percussion. Oh, for this also, I'm going to turn this rate up. Number 6 seems like it's going to work. Maybe, maybe not. Let's turn the width down for now. Now let's look at how long this sample is. It lasts about 4 seconds. I think this is actually good at 1,000. What I don't want is I don't want any of the grains hitting the end of this because I have it on clip mode, clip at boundary, and that's going to cause problems. I don't want that. Now we can adjust the rate here. Okay. Now what I want to do is just kind of vary this rate. If I play a chord like this, it gets very repetitive and a bit annoying. So what I'm going to do is go into here, choose the random under the LFOs. I'm going to increase this, actually make sure it's up and down. So max 500, minimum is probably like a 50 or something. So let's hear how this sounds. That seems all right, but what I want to do is just increase the attack so it sounds more like a pad. And at the beginning, it's a little bit inharmonic. If I want to try to change that, I can try moving the start position here. Helped a bit. Nothing's perfect, but I think actually sometimes that inharmonic bits can actually make it sound more natural and interesting. So we have that. I think this is sounding pretty good, but there's one more thing you can do. So I saw someone, I think YouTube name was Bespoke. They did a really cool tutorial on something similar to this, but what they did was they actually played it and they processed it in a different way. I think using the granular sampler is actually a better and easier way to do this. So they're playing things in octaves and using chords and arpeggiators and everything, but there's an easy way to do this. If I just play one note like this, that's probably not so interesting. But if I go in here in the harmony like this and play something, you see it's playing other notes. I don't need it to play that many. I'm just going to use octaves. So here where it says count 5, I don't need 5 voices. I just need 2. So I have the first one here, which is the note I'm playing, and then this one is a third up. But we don't need, or say 3 semitones up. I don't need 3 semitones up. I need an octave, which is 12 semitones up. So I'll go like this. Now let's listen to it. Some of those might be hitting the end there, which is causing a annoyance here. Clip it sample boundary. I'll do flip it sample boundary, so that way when it hits the end, it's gonna bounce back here. That's sounding better. So now we're getting the original note and the octave, and we can do the same thing with the chords. You can try this with other intervals, but the other intervals will sound bad with chords, so just a warning to you. might have to continue at the other end. Okay, so what I'm hearing is things are getting to the end and it's not sounding so good, but with continue the other end, it means the grain goes to here and then it starts back there, which, to be honest, that's not what I was looking for. I have it at 1,000. I probably need to shorten this duration. So there you're not hearing the kind of like clicking and the re-triggering of the sample, but to be honest, I like that re-triggering of the sample. That sounded cool to me, actually. I like that. It almost sounds like kind of like a backwards effect. It's interesting to me, so I'm going to leave that in. We're going to move this width up again. If you don't want quite so much of the octave, you can turn this down, like here. I'll turn it up like maybe here. And then the last thing, let's put this through our reverb that we already have here. We're just going to use a mixer. Right click it, input 1 and input 2. I'm going to steal the input here. Now that should just be going in here, and we'll probably have to adjust the levels, I think, because one's going to be louder than the other. I'll probably have to turn this one down. Make sure this is on now. Let's hear them together. That's sounding good. Maybe a little bit too wide, and it's kind of giving me like 3D effects there, but that's okay. The last thing I want to do is just add another envelope here. I'm going to turn this down. Do the same thing I did before. Use envelope 2 this time. I'm going to use a different set of timings here. Let's make this slower. So maybe there, half, dotted half note. And then turn the sustain down. Do the decay at 1 like this. Make sure I set this range to, I guess, 0 or so. Maybe this is good enough. Let's hear it. And I think that's good. Maybe I would turn this up a little bit more, but I think you can hear both those elements, and they both sound kind of interesting and hard to kind of get these in other ways. So I think this gives you lots of movement in your sound. Hopefully this didn't take too long. I think this is fairly fast. And of course, you can always try this with different samples. I use this with this percussion sample here, but try it with other bells or other things. As I said, if you get something that's kind of too noisy or has too many inharmonic sounds, it may not sound that good, but you might be going for some crazy effect too. It might be good for horror music or something. Who knows? And you can try this with other things besides Supersaw too. So hopefully this gave you an interesting look at how you can make pads. I'll probably do more with this in the future, but I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below, and check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.